The following is a conversation with Yele Sowore. He's an human rights activist, the founder of Sahara Reporters and an ex-presidential candidate. Both hope and despair runs through his heart. I find him fascinating because I know it is an heavy burden to actually carry when you want something good for your country and you have people trying to make you quit or you can't actually get the help you need. It's a very heavy burden to carry, especially when you've been in jail. He's been in jail for more times than I can actually count. He's been in jail since he was in his early 20s, and he was accused when he was in the service year that he wanted to overthrow the government in his service year. That's an heavy burden to carry. For those who are not aware, this podcast is about exploring culture and its relationship to developmental growth in Nigeria. If you find the talk fascinating, subscribe on YouTube, and that is very important. Please subscribe on YouTube. Give me a thumbs up on Spotify. Connect with me on Twitter and Instagram at paranormaldbk. And if you want to gain access to the videos from the investigation, we've been exploring the belief in the supernatural. If you want to get access to the video, subscribe on Patreon. The video has been uploaded on Patreon for patrons, for those who are actually donating. And I want to say thank you to those who supported this podcast, who got this podcast to the stage it is right now. I am what I am because of you. I'm doing all this because of you. And you guys actually rock, because it is very difficult at the very start to want to start up something like this. I'm very grateful for all you've done. Connect with me on Instagram, subscribe on Twitter, and now here's my conversation with Yele Sowore. What was your journey like since you joined politics as in like?
Well, I have 30 years of political experience, starting as a student activist in one of the most heated political periods in Nigeria. That was around 1993. Because I started in 1989 as a student activist and became what you call a student leader, heading the student union government by 1992. And by 1993, a major political crisis, which was the annulment of the June 12 election, did take place. And we were at the forefront of that, fighting for restoration of democracy and fighting for an end to military rule. So that led to a lot of political experiences, both on campus and outside campus. It also led to a lot of very bitter experiences, because I was detained several times. I was expelled from the university twice.
You didn't graduate at Unilag?
But I was expelled twice before we eventually fought back, and I graduated. And when I left Unilag, I went to do my NYSC. And at the NYSC, I completed the NYSC. The day I completed my NYSC, that's the National Youth Service Corps, I was arrested and detained between the DSS and the Air Force Intelligence they accused me of planning to overthrow the government, but didn't take me to court. They just detained me for about a week, and I left Yola having completed my NYSC without an NYSC certificate. Yeah. So till date, I was never given an NYSC certificate.
I thought serving the nation is actually a requirement. Like you serve the nation, but like the recognized standard. Like it's either you actually served in the military or as in the service corps as a graduate. Isn't that an objective standard or is it still required?
Like I'm required to serve after graduating from the university.
Yeah.
And if you are below the age of 30, I have completed that requirement.
Okay.
But they are required to give me a certificate. They have not fulfilled
recognized
that.
Okay, all right. That is true. I watched an interview of yours on the internet, like channels, and you were talking about your experiences abroad, how you weren't able to actually connect emotionally with being in the. You said you feel like an immigrant. I've on several occasions also had the chance to actually live in Nigeria, leave the country, and but I never took it because of your worries also, but of your. Can you talk about your inability, your inability to actually connect to the environment, to staying in the US now and actually living there, and leaving your country behind to actually rot the way it's rotting now.
I think it's a personal experience, and then it's an experience that comes with probably being an activist. You just want to be on the front lines all the time. When you hear stories about things going wrong in the country, there's always a part of you that feels maybe if I was on the ground, I could have made things better. Or you feel like a coward for leaving everybody behind and, staying in a part of the world where you have relative comfort. Yeah. So that's what I was trying to explain in that interview that you saw. That I spent 20 years in the U.S. and made a trip of about a month home every year. And each time I had to leave, it was painful. But I also had family in the U.S., I had a wife, and I had children. So it's always a struggle. You get there, you're excited about leaving Nigeria behind, but after a while, then what?
Yeah. Then what? What do you say to a lot of people? Occasionally you see an hashtag trending about Nigeria have left you behind, or about a lot of people, a lot of youth these days. A lot of people my age actually wants to actually leave and actually never come back. What do you say to that?
Well, they're entitled to migrate to wherever they want, and to have a life of comfort is a fundamental right. That nobody should be born to suffer, and that's what Nigeria represents for generations now. You are born here, you can't get proper medical care. You are not vaccinated at birth, and you keep getting sick. You go to schools that don't provide real education. You just struggle your entire life, and then if an opportunity opens up where, based on what you have heard or seen in movies or television, you feel like life could be better, naturally you migrate there. So there's no crime in that. White people migrated towards Africa in search of better life at a particular time, and they still do now, stylishly. They migrate even for sex to the Gambia.
Yeah.
So they migrate to get resources on the continent of Africa, so as to build a home base that will make life relatively better for them and happy. But Nigerians, unfortunately, haven't had that. And when young people express to you that they want to leave to go find something better for themselves, especially at their formative age, you can't quarrel with that. You can't just dismiss that. But you also will get to a point after doing all of that, you will hit the ceiling and discover that you just, east or west, as they say, home is the best. So you could lose your formative age in search of better life elsewhere and having to build societies elsewhere. Whereas you could also stay back, fight, and make your own society better and retire happily in it without changing your DNA. I usually would say that cold weather, for example, would change your DNA.
Yeah, in a way, like it makes lighter.
Not even lighter. Your mood. For example, for 6 months, most people undergo depression in the US because of winter. And then the culture is different, the food is different.
You can't go out there and actually buy ugu and ekpa just like that.
So there's a lot of things that you're just not you're not wired for out there. And when you exhaust that latitude, that bandwidth of excitement, that time, I'm in the US, probably I'll give you 10 years. And then you start realizing that, wow, this is not what I was told. Then it's too late,
Okay, let's talk about Sahara Reporters. I've been preparing for this interview. I've been following the accounts and actually been looking at a lot of trolls. I would call them trolls. I don't know where are them, but you actually see the consistency of those actually looking and seeking to actually diminish the effort of the platform and of the you hear a lot of people. You see them, always there. They're always consistent, and they're not like they do something else on Twitter. They're just there, What do you say to the effort, and a lot of people online feel skeptical and they feel some, just feel like, it is not being straightforward enough, and I know the effort actually takes, to actually be a forefront of something like that. Can you talk about Sahara Reporters for a little while?
Well, your question is, people who go on Sahara Reporter platforms, to try and diminish or delegitimize
their work.
It's not new. Sahara Reporters, I started Sahara Reporters in 2006.
Yeah.
And from the day we started till this day, it's always been like that.
Wow.
Reason is that it was a media platform that came, to disrupt the media space.
Yes.
It came to do business the way it's never been done before. It's a media platform for activists, non-conformists, a media platform that has decided that it will not take into account those things that restrict free flow of information. A media platform that's challenging established institutions, both traditional and non-traditional. A media platform that is specifically after powerful people in the public and private sector. You don't expect them to be watching you.
Do your stuff.
Just get away with, taking them down, taking businesses that are shady down, exposing things that have never been exposed before, revealing people's credit card information, revealing illnesses of politically exposed persons, revealing their bank accounts, revealing people who have bought jets in other people's names, bought houses in London and elsewhere, revealing people who are keeping their children in foreign schools paying millions of dollars, whereas there are public officials who are keeping pens, poultries, and calling them schools here. So you don't expect them to watch. They have the wherewithal to permanently put people on a platform. But that platform grows at the expense or in spite of that. I think on Twitter we have about 3.6 million followers.
Yeah, it's a 3.6.
For a 14-year-old organization that has been attacked left, right, and center, that's not a bad number.
It is not.
Yes. On Facebook, we have over 3-point-something million users. In fact, Facebook is restricting Sahara Reporters deliberately. Otherwise, we probably would have reached 7 million or so by now on Facebook. But they keep throwing all kinds of things at us and threatening to take down the Facebook page because we don't allow them restrict us in passing on information to the people who are after us. We have over 1 million people on Instagram, and we don't have to post nude pictures.
Yeah.
It's just pure information,
Yeah.
regarding what is happening politically, both in Nigeria and elsewhere. And the website itself has been there for such a long time. In addition to that, what you call troll is nothing compared to what they do to us. They have faced personally, and Sahara Reporters has faced over 6 lawsuits. I think 7. Not in Nigeria. I can't count the ones in Nigeria. Libel lawsuits, many of them frivolous, in the US.
Wow.
Yes, by powerful people, religious leaders, government ministers, powerful lawyers who are involved in shady dealings that were exposed. So I have been physically attacked several times. My detention last year was not unconnected with Sahara Reporters. They made it very clear.
Yeah.
In fact, at the point they reached out to me that if I could take down Sahara Reporters, they would let me go. So, and I refused and decided to face the consequences of my actions or Sahara Reporters' actions. So, for some reasons, I haven't managed Sahara Reporters for a while because I engaged in partisan politics in 2018. But the platform is still there. So there is nothing wrong with trolls. It's a cottage industry that we created for them too. So we appreciate that people get something from just following Sahara Reporters.
That's actually
from
great.
doing what they do on the platform. But the platform, I believe, is up to the task and doing what it needs to do on a daily basis, sometimes on an hourly basis, releasing news instantaneously, doing investigative reporting, and challenging power, speaking truth to power.
Why do you think no one is doing anything about like I saw I follow Sahara Reporters and I saw a lot of informations, I've seen a lot of information reviewed online, like the corrupt officials, even this IGP of police, I think it's the IGP of police in Lagos, actually paid a lot of money to actually keep its own seats.
Yeah.
Why is why is no one doing anything about that?
Well, the people who are supposed to do something about corruption are the people in power. They
themselves are corrupt,
Yes.
No.
So who is going to, for instance, investigate the IG of police who paid money to get tenure extension and actually got upset when he didn't get a year?
Yeah, he got about 3 months or so.
He got the 3 months, and in 2 months he was kicked out. And he did something unusual when he was handing over. He went there in his civilian clothing.
Wow.
Because I think he was so upset about what they did to him. Probably that's his life savings that was just taken away. Yeah. And by the way, he sued me in Abuja here.
Okay.
But did not serve me here in Abuja. He sent a whole police contingent to go to my village in Ondo State to paste the lawsuit on my wall.
Wow.
On the wall on my father's house, house.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's too much. That's too extreme. How could anyone actually do that?
Well, bad people who are in charge of government, who are powerful and politically connected, do extremely bad things. Yes.
Yeah.
Not only did he do that, he also had some girlfriend of his in the police who works in the office to try to sue me as well. And they're using police money to hire a senior advocate of Nigeria to do that. These are things that can't happen in sane societies. That you use public funds to execute your own private
deals,
and
no one is doing anything about it.
No. Well, it is up to us to do something about it.
It is up to us, yeah.
The job of the platform, or my job as a public conscience, is to put out the information there. And it's for the rest of the country to wake up and do something with the information.
Yeah, which makes me think about your handle, like revolution now, I've been thinking about, like, I almost daily, I've been thinking about to actually oust these powers, how to oust all of them, I don't think it's actually possible at once, but little by little I think it can be done. What do you mean by revolution now? Is it moderate or a kind of radical revolution?
There's no dimension to revolution that does not involve radical change. This country has been destroyed by a set of people since it got independence in 1960s. The systems put in place are not working. The operators of the system are mostly incompetent and corrupt and very inhuman set of people. So to introduce revolution and say that it has to be mild, it's just an oxymoron. It's to change the system. I truly believe the system needs to be upturned to give Nigerians a fresh lease of life and to put in place a new set of system, or a system that is just fair and egalitarian, that allows the people of the country to benefit from their resources, to have a country where they are not discriminated against, killed, robbed, kidnapped, where the children can go to school, where they can have electricity, where they can find employment, where they can drive on safe road, or a system that allows for the kind of innovation that can bring prosperity.
Do you think I spoke with to a lot of your guys last night when I was here, and they were like, they've been like for a long time since they started the revolution. Now they've been progressing peacefully, but is there at any point in time, do you think there would ever be a need for violence, when it comes to the revolution movement,
It is not the intention of revolution now movement to engage in violence. However, it is also not our intention to back down. So what we do, which you call peaceful, is violence against unjust power. It's violence against conscienceless power. So we'll keep doing that. We'll keep doing violence in our own way.
Yeah.
Not violence of
In their
not
own
armed
way.
resistance.
Armed resistance,
In a way to the system until it crumbles.
What do you say to those that have, there are people actually think, a lot of them political powers online who actually think Nigeria is progressing just fine as long as they are good, that Nigeria is progressing just fine. What do you say to those?
I'm not interested in what they think. I'm interested in what the majority of the people who feel that things are not working feel, and how they want to change it. There would always be in the world people who support evil. It doesn't matter where you go. It happened. That's why they killed 6 million Jews in Germany, because companies, individuals, organizations, churches supported Hitler. He is still a hero to
some people, yeah. Even to today, yeah. A lot of people just still looks at Hitler and envy him,
Yeah.
Like a lot of people actually look at Buhari today still, and people still envy him and actually think that this man is actually a great
so
man.
it's natural that some people will be in that category.
Okay, yeah. This is a weird question. My mom actually do not, there is nothing I can actually tell my mom for her to actually believe that Buhari is still alive, Like, Laura, what do you think, I don't know.
I think people who believe it, there are two categories of people in that line of thinking. The first category is those who were made to believe that he died somehow in 2017 in Saudi Arabia and I was buried in a shallow grave. Those, I would say, fell for propaganda. But there are those who metaphorically also are justified to think that because of the way he's behaving, his lack of absence, his dementia, that he's dead. It's just not there. And that is the definition of death. It's the absence of life. Yes. And there's no life in his
Asol Rock
presence.
is
lifeless.
dead. It's lifeless right now. That's
Yeah.
the word. Asol Rock is lifeless right now. Now let's talk about Buhari for a little bit. What do you think he had great intentions while coming in as the president? Do you think he had great intentions, and being drunk on power, being able to actually appoint a family member of yours into office and without any constraint on his power? Do you think he actually got drunk on it, or he had no great intention?
I think Buhari is the person that in Northern calls munafiki. Yeah, munafiki is an Arabic word for a deceptive person. He has succeeded in deceiving people for a long time, and a lot of people probably got hypnotized by that deceit because it became a national malaise at the point. So I think he came to power for the sake of power and to push his his own, and his agenda, in my view, is two. One of it is he believes that he's a religious warrior on the inside, and whatever he can do as an army of God or a general of God, he will do it. He sees himself as a Mahdi. You can find the meaning of Mahdi. There've only been 12 people like that. One of them was the guy who led the insurrection against the British.
Yeah, Anders Solaswati.
In Sudan.
Yeah, and his name is Anders Solaswati.
Yes. It's a Mahdi.
Mahdi, yeah.
Yes. There was another one that came to Nigeria who created the northern Nigeria in his image as it is today. And that guy is Uthman Dan Fodio. It's a Mahdi too. Buhari is, in his own mind, a Mahdi. But as we now know, is a low-budget Mahdi with none of those characteristics. But he wants to use everything in government to achieve that. The second aspect of it is completely ethnocentric. Buhari doesn't believe in any ethnicity other than his. He doesn't. Yes. So, and the rest of it, he just wish you guys luck. And the people around him have figured out that he doesn't have the capacity to deliver on the wars that he has created and pushed, that is dividing and creating confusion in the country. So all of them are doing now is to just grab whatever they can, hoping Nigeria survives. So the level of corruption you are seeing in his government is like everybody is taking care of themselves. Look at the wife launching a book yesterday. What do you think book launch is about? It's like, hey, collect from whomever you can collect. Who knows what will happen next? And they are probably also aware of things we're not aware of. His health situation is precarious.
Yeah, that's serious, How do you think we can constrain executive power in Nigeria? Do you think we should implement the two-party system like in the US? Or
no, I don't.
But how do we make sure, no matter how it is,
you keep driving me back. I don't believe in any of these systems.
Of course, it has its own problems.
Yeah, to create or restrain, something that can restrain power. I believe in a revolution. I believe power as we have it now is corrupted, it's dangerous and disastrous, and must be destroyed by the people for their own good and for their own survival into the future. Because, look at the judiciary. The judiciary is even more corrupt than the executive. Look at the legislative arm. It is an appendage of the executive. It's a pay-to-legislate system. So this system can't curb executive rascality. It can't curb judicial corruption. It can't curb the hollowness of the legislative system in the country. But were there to be a revolution, which I'm sure will happen, we won't need a bicameral legislative system. We don't need a Senate made of thieves, doing nothing, who are just going out there extorting money from ministries and imposing contracts on budgetary units in the country or items. That's not what we need. We need a system that is very compact and effective.
That we regulate all those people, that we hold every single person accountable.
Yes.
Including the president.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the best, That is very...
But it can't happen in any of the existing structures or system we have in place today. It's impossible.
If we want to oust, actually oust Buhari and actually make him leave power, how do we do it? Do we do that through a protest and he will resign, or we isolate him from his from his power, those supporting him, those actually gaining from his power and his supporters, how do we do that? How do we make sure Buhari must go? It actually implies that Buhari has to leave his position before his term ends, before the end of his terms.
You see, I understand what you're struggling with. You're struggling with tenure. Yeah.
Is it before or after?
Yeah. You see, his tenure is only legitimate as long as the people accept it.
Yeah.
So you cannot put a tenure of suffering on me. You cannot tenure violation of rights. You can't tenure hunger, insecurity, darkness, sickness in a country. You cannot establish all those things and tell the people in those country that they must remain in those miserable conditions for 4 years. They are entitled to say we're tired and enough is enough. And whenever they said enough is enough and decide to rise up and work against the system, that is the end of that tenure. That's the end of the tenure of their suffering and the beginning of a new tenure of bliss of life. That's what we ask for. And if you're having problems with that, go and find out about what happened in Mali recently. The guy who was kicked out of power in Mali via public anger had 2 more years to go. But they said no, they don't want. And the military at a point, who initially were reluctant and protective of him, had to join the masses because it was massive. And then, you know what happened to that guy? He had a stroke after 2 weeks and he died, I think, 3 weeks.
How do you manage that?
Yeah, but the body has lifted off the chest of the people of Mali. And Mali has not gone to war since then. Mali has had a conversation about their future. That happened in Sudan. There's a guy who had a tenure there. So that is what revolutions are about. Egyptian former president. Huh?
It was last year.
He had a tenure.
Yeah, he had a tenure.
Was the president of Zimbabwe that died. He had a tenure. So tenure should not stand in the way of political freedom.
No, all right. Why do you think Nigerians are so ready to actually accept their servitude? We've learned to actually swallow and not find bitter. When I bought petrol for about 185 this year, 185 naira at the filling station, and people were just like, as long as it's available, we buy it. Why do you think we are so ready to actually accept our servitude?
You can't blame Nigerians. These people have been pummeled for 60 years with all kinds of economic policies, political systems. They've been pummeled by the military. They've been pummeled by the religious sector. They've been pummeled by even people they could trust, like labor leaders. They have trusted. Nigerians are like a trusting wife who gets abused and abused and abused over the years, and then you're asking after he turns 60 why he doesn't divorce the husband. She's just probably there, like she's accepted an unacceptable reality. But don't also forget that in the middle of that, a lot of conversations are taking place, a lot of activities are taking place, seismic activities that are not known to people who have taken this situation for granted. One of the signs of that was what you saw with NSAS. When NSAS to have lasted for 2 weeks, we will be talking about a different Nigeria today. So where did NSAS come from? Wherever it came from, there's still more.
There's still more there. Yeah. And that's actually a great thing, like people are, I think a very large proportion of the population is actually waking up, and I want to actually give this credit, to the Revolution Now movement, because you've been talking about protest before the NSAS movement, and I think to a very significant amount of the move and the willingness to actually see, we actually saw during the NSAS protest, actually due to the fact that you a part of it, you have been talking about the a protest, that people should actually rise up and actually determine their future. And I hope in the coming future, we will be able to actually decide, for ourselves, at least the more majority, more like people in the East, because there was the momentum wasn't high in the northern part of Nigeria, and it wasn't as virulent as it was in Lagos and Abuja. And
See, people make this mistake that we're still people keep talking about this monolithic knot. The knot is not one religion, one tribe. Actually, NSAS protests did take place in Jos, and that is not our Nigeria. The follow-up to NSAS, if you remember, was the liberation of palliatives from those warehouses. The most intense of them took place in the north. Go and find out. In Adamawa State, after they discovered the palliatives to them, they came and removed the roof of the warehouse. And soldiers could not stop them. So, it took place everywhere. Of course, an attempt was made on the part of government to suppress information getting out of the north, because you have to look at the information that was spreading based on internet concentration as well. A lot of the northern parts of Nigeria still don't have even towers for cell phone, mobile telephoning. So, but they're getting there. You'll be surprised how many people in the northern part of Nigeria are actually very much in need of liberation. Probably more than you think you do in the south. Yeah.
Okay, talking about religion, you went to court with what Igbos will call Dibia and a priest, like it actually trended online, and for someone open who actually ran for presidency, I have to actually ask this first. You understand that isn't a very good. It won't look good to a lot of Christians, like a lot of Christians, like this guy is behind. Did you do it for the satire, or you're actually open to convey message?
I've always said that I'm an African without apology. I wear a cowrie shells around my neck. I wear it without apology. I'm happy to be an African. I love being African. But beyond that, I'm also very saddened by the fact that Africans don't believe in themselves. They don't respect their culture, and that is part of what is killing Africa. It's that everything that is foreign to Africa or Africans is the dominant culture, is the dominant tradition, is the dominant belief. So there was nothing new about going to court with an African dressed in an African attire. I had also been to the same court with a guy who's a pastor. He introduced himself to the magistrates, and the magistrate asked him to stay. I have been to court with a Muslim. I have a lot of Muslim friends. I have a lot of Christian friends. So showing up in court.
Now, why would that have stood out? It shouldn't have. People should have
exactly.
just.
It's exactly where I'm going to. Is that Africans are lost. A lot of Africans are lost. They have lost their Africanness. And there's nothing else I need to prove to people. I've been to 30 countries around the world. If you go to India, people wear sarong, what Yorubas call bante. But you will never find an Indian castigate them or ridicule them or try to humiliate them. There are people they call sheikhs. They wear, the turban over their head in India. Right? So why would it be a crime for an African to wear an African dress or an African culture? Let's even assume it's Dibia. What is wrong with being a Dibia? Is there anything wrong with it? Nothing. It's an African practicing his own belief. If you can accept Christianity and Islam is an Arabic, belief. Africans were open-minded enough to accept it. Christianity is a Roman belief, Anglo-Roman belief, culture. We accept it. There are people in this country who practice Jewish religion. But when it comes to their own religion or their own people and their own culture, they hate it. And they demonize it because of what Fela used to call colonial mentality. Yes. I'm so happy though, because I was watching public debate and opinion around it and a conversation. I think the younger generation of Africans or Nigerians have more open mind towards religion. Like they didn't go the route of the older, Judeo-Christian population who were like, oh, Sowore is fetish. She brought Babalawo to court. Even the judge was like, oh my God, And it's like, look, you are lost and we must find our way back to where we came from. Because that place is a place of strength. And I've always told people I'm a Pan-Africanist.
I watched an interview of a discussion with Yele Sowore with some, and he was talking about if anyone would actually have religion, it should be the Oromila religion. That was what he was saying. He said if anyone on this earth should have a good religion, like that it's a religion that has never went to war on its own basis. It is. I think to some extent, I'm not religious myself. To some extent, it is peaceful, but even more than Christianity, because Oromila people won't come and knock on your door and say, believe in Sango or die or born in hell. They don't do that. They just stay in their own house and pray to whatever they believe in. But others, I think if anyone would, like to some extent, I don't believe.
I mean, if you live in a part of the world and you have to defend your own clothes, you have to defend what you eat, you have to defend what you wear, you want to defend how you meditate, then there's something wrong. There's an African-wide problem of where our mental health has shifted.
Religiously speaking, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, religiously speaking, let's talk about identity, how we define ourselves, How do you think Nigerians define ourselves? I've been seeing a new wave of Africans generally, not Nigerians, a new wave of Pan-Africanists online who at every point of talking about historical achievement of Africans, and African people, they use it in a way to actually retract or to actually underestimate the achievement of other races, And they say, it is not the white people that actually built the longest wall in history. Like it's not Chinese that has the greatest wall of China. It is Nigerians, like the Benin Kingdom wall. And they say this. It is not the white people. It is not the white people. And I have seen some hatred, among those people, for other people of other races, and it has been academized by a lot of people. Like alchemists of it online, who are turning it into rage, and it is. What do you say to those people who can't define themselves, and they have to define themselves on the hatred of other races?
Well, I think I don't see it as reverse racism. A lot of people are looking for strength. They are looking for identity. There's a whole lot of identity crisis out there.
Yeah, in Africa.
And people have become victims of being branded and identified by their same oppressors, but the more subtle, global oppressive system. Because they will look at you and say, "Oh, you belong to Generation X," or you're this and that. But that's not who you are. You are way more than those Roman letters. with which they define you from time to time, or some kind of symbol or sign. So it's forced a lot of Africans to look and say, look, where are we coming from? Where do we come from? Did we never produce or manufacture something before? And they go back into history and try to draw strength and power. Because it's a form of empowerment for them to be able to say, psychologically, and say to you, look, which is true.
Yeah, we are someone. Yeah,
Benin City was better than Amsterdam when the British came and destroyed the place. If you've been to Egypt, you see the kind of architectural designs there. The designers might have been non-blacks, but the builders were blacks.
Yeah.
But, that racism has been so well defined that they refuse to give credit to the people who built the pyramids in Egypt.
They've spoken about it and recorded history through their own lens, by actually looking down on us in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a form of pushback, but it has its own deficiencies.
Yeah.
Because there's a need for a future, so you can't be stuck with the past perpetually, and we can't get anywhere ahead by engaging perpetually in blame game.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's the reason why I say to Africans, because I noticed this in the U.S. when I first arrived in the U.S. They hated white oppression, but some black American activists were in love with Mugabe because of Mugabe's rhetorics against white racism. So you have to understand that you must not allow this revolutionary thinking to create what I call revolutionary confusion, to the point that you hate white oppressors, but you start embracing black oppressors, which is one of the things that, like Minister Louis Farrakhan did. At the point, he was very vibrant, fiery, firebrand black activist in the U.S. But at the point, he traveled around Africa and he was embracing people like Abacha at the time that Abacha was killing
his own people.
Yes. Yeah. So it's important that people have a full gamut of what needs to be said, to be done, and need to be understood in moving forward. And in moving forward, that you don't make the same mistake that our ancestors made, complacency.
What do you mean by complacency?
I think there was a period, in my view, and I'm looking for that period, in which Africans were complacent about their freedoms. Because I keep asking myself internally, how could 6 people show up with a ship and transport 200 people for 6 months and nothing happened? And they come back and over again and they did it for 400 years. What happened to the African strength? Why wasn't an army that was resisting them on the ground? Why, did we just keep allowing that to happen? But you could ask the same question today because of this latent complacency. And ask yourself, why is it that a few guys in Abuja, why is that they're able to hold to ransom 200 million people, of which some 70 to 100 million are young people like yourself below the age of 30 or between 40 and below, who could just wake up one day and say enough is enough and these guys will be jumping their fences? How could an army, police, DSS, that's less than 1 million, all of them hold to ransom 200 million people? It's the same question I keep asking, and the only explanation I could have is that there was something went missing somewhere, and I describe it as complacency. Maybe things they could have done proactively at that time they didn't do. But of course, you cannot also rule out internal sabotage from a lot of these traditional rulers. That's part of the reason I don't have much respect for them, because they colluded, they were complicit in slavery, and they still do it today. The subjugation of our people always have some kind of traditional or religious authority involved in it. people will be killing you and your pastor will be asking you to pray. But the pastor himself goes around with, like 12 policemen armed with AK-47. Yeah. So it's something needs to be fixed about how we think about these things. And if earlier we do it, the better for everybody.
Talking about Christianity, which I'm very sure you've noticed a lot of in Nigeria, what do you think is the most negative aspect of it? I say it is ignorance. Like they want to keep their members.
It's not about Christianity. It's religion.
Religion generally.
Religion is a tool for control of human mind, and they have done it in such a way that they have existed out of the boundaries of even state control, because religion or religious authorities are part of the state when they are powerful, and that is the reason why you see that when religious leaders have problems, they ask their members to help, to give them money, to pray for them, to give them support. But when the members have problems, they ask them to pray to God.
It still goes on not to today, Yeah. I was passing by a church on I was coming back from work, and I was passing by a church on Monday morning, and the pastor was praying for his members, and he was like, and the members were singing like, who is the one behind all the problems of their life, And I was like, it is the pastor. Monday morning you are in church, it should be at work, like Monday morning, it's the pastor is behind your problem.
Let me give you my own experience. One day I went to get my passport renewed. I was just traveling in Nigeria. I went to Ikoyi. The massive passport office. They were supposed to start work at 8 a.m. I was hearing noise from one side, and I walked out. I said, what's going on here? It's full-time church at 8 a.m. for people who are supposed to be at work. And for as long as I was there, which was about an hour and a half, they were singing and praising, that lasted. And I asked the guy who was with us, I said, who are these people? They said they are workers. This is how they resume. They have to do religious service here. And on Friday, the Muslims will do the same thing. They will leave work at 10 a.m. or thereabout and go, and most of them don't come back. How do you expect productivity in a country where people resume to work first as church members, and then when they are done with their own private, which is supposed to be private, they now start attending to people leisurely? This can't get done that way. Can't get done that way. Isn't England and America the source of, Anglo-Roman religion?
And still, they don't do it. They don't resume to work.
How can you go to work? You can't find. I don't think there is an American institution that I've been to before where the church is attached or a mosque is attached. Of course, at the airports, they can say, look, if you want to go and pray, there's a prayer room somewhere. But airport is for traveling, it's not for work. So we got a lot of problems to solve.
I was speaking to Father Oloma yesterday, the founder of Wow Catholic Church.
I've seen him before.
Yeah, some of his videos. Yeah, he's very open-minded, but we had this discussion, and they said, we were talking about the origin of the human species and evolution by natural selection, and it was like, science has never given us evidence for macroevolution, like the macroevolution of moving from one species to another. In your opinion, like, what do you think? What do you think explains our origin? Do you think religiously does it explain our origin, or science?
I think both of them haven't been able to deliver on that. But I'll go on the side of science more than I'll go on the side of religion, because religion just said, Christianity said two people were created. One person created, and then when he went asleep, they tore a part of his rib. And then you go like 5 minutes later inside the Bible, when they had children, The children went out, and then they had a fallout, and one left in another direction, and went and had a whole family. So that means there was a family. You understand? There was a family outside there that that took care of that aspect. So the contradictions are very glaring, but nobody wants to discuss it because it will knock the feet off of the argument about the origin of human beings. I think the explanation is trial and error on both sides. But like I said, a part of me will go on the science side first because science has proven a lot of things to be more true than religion, to the point that religious leaders rely on science to live and to even carry out their activities, including flying.
No, that's what I actually try to emphasize to people. You like to religious leaders. I was with a pastor and I asked him about some questions, and when I asked him, and he looked at me with disdain and I've never seen that kind of hatred in anyone before. And yeah, he told me we'll call him back when it's time for the interview. He haven't. It won't. I'm very sure it won't. When I asked him questions about our origin and what about. I think it is deliberate. Lying or they're just keeping the truth from people, from their members. Like for example, a lot of when I was in secondary school, science was actually kept away from me. Like science in its own form, in its purest form. Like,
well, look, you explain it to yourself. Probably there are more translated versions of the Bible and Quran.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I have never found a Yoruba physics book. Chemistry, have you found?
I've never seen
Biology? A Greek? Maybe.
Greek I've seen.
So, but go to any hotel. There's a Bible waiting beside there for you, or a Quran, depending on who the owner of the hotel is. So you just take a deep dive into your mind and say, why are religious texts freely available and educational texts are not? That tells your story there. Somebody wants you to be religious, and they know that education might probably deprive them of the ability to control your mind. But religion gives them a free.
It's more funded.
Yes, it's well funded.
It's well funded. It's well funded. Yeah, it's well funded.
Yes, one guy was saying it takes 70 million naira to translate the Bible from English to, and I think they have over 72 languages that have been translated already. And nobody has translated computer science into any language in Nigeria since we discovered that computer is the life upon which is the word upon which our life is anchored today.
I still have a lot of graduates. I met a guy who graduated civil engineering, and he actually holds an MSc, Masters in Civil Engineering, OAU, and he told me, I was shocked when he actually said it, that those who actually manufacture Toyota and other machines and actually uses Juju and actually uses Voodoo to actually manufacture computers and all that. It is which is inside computers. Just look at how I don't want to call it stupid but look at how that sounds. Like even at the master's level, you could still be a failure no matter your education.
No, but there's a difference between literacy and education. Yeah, you can be very literate and be ignorant. And you sometimes may not be literate and be very well educated. Because, part of education is being open-minded. Close-minded people never get educated, no matter how literate they are. That's why you have PhD holders who are racists in the world. But you think about it too. Look at the church, for example, on a Sunday. I keep coming back to churches, and where a PhD holder will carry the Bible to be interpreted to him by a guy who failed out of the university, and the PhD holder is calling the wife of the pastor mommy.
I've never heard that before. That's a good one. No. It's that's such a huge failure, in that society. And I have another physics guy who is actually doing his PhD also. Who actually says stars falls all the time. He was talking about, not metaphorically, was talking about the real star line, but doesn't know that the sun is also a star, and it's far larger than Earth. And it talks about, even when you graduate from a science department, how little you can actually know about the world, and how little you can actually know about where you are, even due to because he has heard his pastor say, stars fall and it represent people, like astrology in a way. Yeah. And he was actually repeating the same thing.
A pastor say here in Nigeria, I saw it on Facebook, that monkeys cannot climb banana trees.
Yeah. I saw that one. Yeah, I saw that.
Anyway,
I saw that one. Speaking about productivity, let's talk about the debt trap. The debt trap China is actually setting for.
It's not a Chinese thing.
It is not. It is not
it's a global economic way of
other countries, but other, you can just shift the microphone to the front, yeah. But it's China here in Africa right now. It's China,
It's not China. It's not China alone.
No, it's not China alone. Yeah.
America
is doing the same thing.
In fact, there are private equity firms that is made up of Chinese, Americans, English, that are here doing Indians.
Indians are here also, yeah.
Because, this is a paradise for money doublers.
They are here to make money. And they call us an impoverished country, but they come here to make money.
The rates, the ROI, rate on the returns on investment, as they call it, is the highest for Nigerian bonds. Yeah. So when you hear the Nigerian government tell you they are going to raise money in Euro bonds, in Europe markets, what they call the Euro bonds, within a short time, that bond is oversubscribed. You're asking yourself, what is the interest rate that Europeans want to buy into Nigerian bonds? It's because it has the highest interest rates. And they know where to get their money back from. When it's time to pay, they just go to England, Bank of England, and wait for a foreign reserve there. And they get paid quickly.
China is looking to spread its culture in Africa, like a lot of they're already doing it.
Look,
now, I majored in China because I'm studying history of.
It's also very important that you don't fall into the propaganda by the West.
Yeah, it's just China. Demonizing China. Yeah, I know. Everything is China. Yeah.
They use that to cover up their own which are still around. They use that to cover up what their oil companies are doing. What, Americans and the British and the West in general, Italians, Spanish, or Spaniards as they call them, they started slavery. They started exploration of resources. They still take from us aluminum, oil, uranium, gold, copper, bauxite, coltan, that thing we use in making cell phones.
Yeah, in Congo.
So, don't just make, and some of the companies that they claim are Chinese owned, some of them are jointly owned by Americans.
By American Chinese.
Because the Chinese businessmen that have the money right now. So look at the boards of these companies. They are jointly owned in a lot of places by Americans and the Chinese. But they make it points about demonizing China to you to make it sound like, China doesn't care, we care. All of them don't care about you. And that's why they invest in helping us elect idiots as our leaders.
Exactly.
As idiots as your head of state.
I watched an interview that I think it was aired by Jazeera that said the campaign manager of Buhari was actually from the US or something.
Yeah.
I just watched it. I didn't save the video, but I record.
I'm not sure now. So it's something you can research.
Yeah. But, and they were furious when they claimed that Russia actually interfered with their own election, but they interfere in other people's election.
Yes,
You know.
they do that. They not only. I mean, they used to plan
Yeah,
and
my
execute
point.
coups.
Yeah.
Coups in Africa.
Yeah.
The Americans, Belgians, and I think the British killed Lumumba in the Congo. Since then, Congo has not had peace.
Peace. Who do you think can actually
The
stop?
French imposed a lot of idiots on the continent of Africa. They still do it today.
They still do it today. Yeah.
Yes. French currency is still the standard for currencies in a lot of
How could someone in
Francophone
Africa be
countries.
speaking French? You know, like the Congo, the first language is French. That is disastrous.
But we speak English.
You speak English. Is this the
How
same now?
different?
It's
Yes,
still the same.
so-
It is no. Which economic system do you think is the best? Capitalism, socialism, communism? Which do you think is the best? You know, that could actually work, or democratic socialism, or I've heard a lot of socialist movement. I've seen a lot of socialist movement online in Nigeria. Which do you think would work better? You know, and we actually tap into the human capital, the human ability.
You know why I keep calling for a revolution? It's for people to determine for themselves what economic system is the best. I am not into all these labels, right? I have told people before that after 20 years in America, sometimes I feel like the US practices even more socialism than some of these so-called socialist countries because of their welfare system. But many people will disagree with me. In fact, they will come at me. When I said it, they came at me, you know. They will call you names. You are an imperialist agent, you know, all this kind of stuff. No. I'm a welfareist and an economic system that promotes the welfare of the people, that does not put profit above life or comfort, is where my thinking starts from. But I also don't want to impose upon a community of 200 million people what is best for them when they are sufficiently enamored, educated, solid, and conscious enough to say, look, this is how we want to go. Because apparently capitalism has failed.
Yeah, capitalism is failing.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's failing even in the US.
even the first countries. Yeah,
All the
the gap
countries,
between the rich and the poor is getting wider.
So
Even in Korea.
You cannot say to me that, oh, capitalism works, because it doesn't. It's not working for even the people who originated it. Yeah. But the extreme forms of communism as well, where we go back to the days of Karl Marx, may also not apply here completely. So let the people decide at the appropriate time.
Who do you think you would particularly hold responsible? Like, you know, I'm not the blame game, but who do you think you would particularly hold responsible for the pain? No, we are going through a lot of pain, Africans. No, we are going through a lot of pain right now, economically, psychologically, even, you know. Who do you think you would hold responsible for that, for the pain we're going through?
There's enough blame to go around.
Mm-hmm.
Enough. It's blame for the colonialists, the slave masters. You know, my own generational blame is for people of my time, the internal colonialists, blacks like myself, who are in some cases even more brutal than the people who handed over power to them. So,
but this generation, our generation, you blame us for not asking enough.
oh yeah, so
because I like that, you know.
Yeah,
That's no.
I don't spare this generation.
Yeah.
Because look, when I was a student leader, if I had WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, we would have shortened military rule, the lifespan of military rule by less than 5 years.
Wow.
Because these are powerful mobilization tools.
Yeah, it is for Snapchat these days.
Yes.
It is for Snapchat and Instagram these days, and you just.
So, but now we have all these tools today, and it's as if they have led to a new form of paralysis.
Yeah, the people are stuck to their screen.
Yeah.
They are stuck to their screen now.
It's sad. So, who do you blame for that? I blame us for that.
This is very important. Like I want to actually like converse on an intimate level. What do you think is the meaning of life? Like the meaning of life.
I don't want to go too psychological about life. I understand life as something that is ephemeral and has a tenure. But nobody knows the tenure of their own life except probably those who take their own lives.
Exactly. Those who take their own lives, yeah.
So they can say, well, you're going to die at 7 a.m. tomorrow.
And you actually do it.
But for the rest, the majority, we don't. So my attitude to life, therefore, is you take life one day at a time. But life must have meaning. It must have impact. It must have virtues. Or virtue, it must have value.
How about happiness?
What?
Like, what do you think makes a man happy? At the end of the day,
Happiness is relative. Yes, to me. I think there's superficial happiness, the one that can be induced, or the one you can form, and there's real happiness, which comes from a place of fulfillment. And that kind of happiness, even when you're in pain, you will be happy. It's happened to me before. I was in the university, and one day I was physically attacked, and I thought I would die. But inside of me, I was happy to die for
something
that I've always believed in. And that happiness is what I think is real happiness.
Do you think it includes some amount of suffering, and actually suffering for something that is actually taking on responsibilities for something that is actually worthwhile, something that you actually in the long term you can actually say, wow. A lot of people think life is meaningless. When you go through some things, even some people, even that actually has money, actually think that life has no meaning.
Well, there's difference between money and life. I actually think that when people are wealthy, their lives could be pretty miserable, because most people pursue wealth for the sake of the internal conviction that wealth or money can buy everything.
Yeah.
And I think when they get to a point where they discover that it can't, then they become more miserable.
Yeah.
I can imagine being a billionaire and you are diagnosed with a disease and doctors tell you there's nothing you can do about it. You look at the doctor like, what do you mean? I have money. Why should I die?
When you can't do this one.
I think you'll be more miserable than someone in the village who couldn't even get diagnosis at that point.
How about death? Are you afraid of death?
No.
You've made your peace with it.
The cool thing about death is the moment it happens,
You won't even know about it. That's just it.
it's the end of pain, it's the end of suffering, it's the end of doubts, it's the end of worry, it's the end of importance. No matter how important you are, the moment you die, it's a leveler. And you don't ever have to explain to anybody how and why you died.
Why? That's
You just turn to what in science is called matter.
Yeah, it don't matter.
Yes.
Eat.
Part of you will become liquid,
Yeah.
gas, solid. Yeah, you enrich the environment.
You enrich the environment.
It doesn't matter what.
What would be your advice? Thanks for watching. I want to leave you with a quote by Étienne de La Boétie. He's a French philosopher. He said in his essay, The Discourse on Voluntary Servitude, that we learn to swallow and not find bitter the venom of servitude. Just like the ancient Mithridates, when they want to habituate themselves or create some immunity to poison, or they take it little by little. And we Nigerians have habituated ourselves to suffering. Birds born in cages do not miss flying. They think flying is a disease. That is why Buhari, a single man, or whoever it is, can actually hold millions of people, 200 million people, who can actually tomorrow actually wake up and actually decide that this is the end to their suffering. If we haven't habituated ourselves to suffering, what could be the answer? Connect with me on Instagram, connect with me on Twitter, paranormaldbk. Subscribe on YouTube. Give me a thumbs up on Spotify and YouTube. Thank you.